Rantaro Amami is very underutilized. Hot take, I know, that was sarcasm. But anyway, yeah. Of course, his early death is probably intentionally annoying, much like Thikakuya, or Thikakia, however you want to pronounce it, but that doesn't make it any less irritating. I want to cover him through analysis and why that mystery works, alongside the other killing games. Also, shout out to a Danganronpa fan game that's themed around Rantaro's killing game, named Danganronpa Distrust. It's very cool, and was the first fan game I learned of while innocently browsing YouTube as a 14-year-old. Alright, let's dive straight in. Rantaro Amami is the ultimate survivor. Rantaro Amami is the ultimate question mark question mark question mark. Rantaro Amami is a lot of things, and almost nothing simultaneously. This video is about the mystery of Rantaro Amami and why it works. Let's focus on the mystery first. Rantaro was a complete mystery in the prologue. There are 16 students here, hinting at him already having knowledge of the killing game. This mysterious aura, continued personality, secretive nature, and all come into play throughout Chapter 1. There's also his lack of knowledge on his ultimate talent, which he brings up a lot in his free time events, though from an insecure angle. The way Kaede describes him in these events is that it's like he's done this before, in retrospect hinting at the plot twist under his name. But on top of that, these hints don't just come off as worthless at the moment, they come off as mysterious, and amplify his aura even further. Kaede uses the term "it's almost like," which will only serve to have that effect, causing the player to think about who exactly he is. He also states in the second event that he'll work hard to get everybody out of the school, and he follows through with that even when he suddenly becomes serious in the dining hall. Kaede states Shuichi is the only real normal person out of the bizarre and wacky personalities in the cast, but Rantaro is normal as well. In fact, even a little too normal maybe. He's extremely calm, causing it to be even more surprising when he suddenly turns serious. Finally, his death and class trial really help with this. The fact he was killed before his talent was revealed is brought up a lot by Monokuma during this part of Chapter 1, and for good reason. It's a neat little bow on the mystery of his character, because now it's suspected we will never know. Though it has a second effect. The fact this character was killed early, paired with the ultimate imposter's death in the second game, causes that layer of suspicion. I'm sure everybody could relate if I said I expected this character to be brought up again later on, and even the Let's Players I've seen agree on that, based on their reactions to everything. But even with that, the ball keeps rolling, get it? The mystery of the class trial being revealed shows even more, and now we're wondering why exactly Rantaro knew about the secret door as well as Kaede and Shuichi. It's clear he was investigating it for some reason, and surprise surprise, we don't know about him either. We know literally nothing, and it's somewhat swept under the rug to an intentional degree, which makes sense considering the fact Samugi cheated to get him killed off. Now, let me discuss everything past Chapter 1. He's rarely brought up till his ultimate talent lab is revealed and the video clip in the endgame, which, instead of answering anything, only serves to question more things. Before that, let's discuss his lab. The door is coated in blood for the ultimate survivor, and it's grand as hell, being extremely intimidating but not answering the mystery of his talent, of course. It makes sense considering his survivor and adventurer talents due to the semen clocks in the far back and pictures being similar to that of the murder victims throughout the game. But upon discovering this place, you don't know that till a bit after. This perfectly sets up the video clip with the crimson colouring representing the previous killing games, which symbolises his origin, and overall feels incredibly out of place as the rest of the game is all in cool colours. Speaking of setting up that video clip, these questions it presents are answered in Case 6, but let's talk about before that. He mentions immediately that he won a perk for participating in the killing game. He doesn't directly point it out by just saying the killing game, which immediately makes you think. It hooks you for the rest of the recording. Monokuma had apparently been meant to shoo people away from him, which does answer a slight bit of the mystery associated with an early game. To rub salt on the wound that is the unknown nature of this guy, he begins talking about the second part of the perk, explaining what it can do but not what it is, which really gives food for thought. He begins bringing the rules up with the killing game that we already do know, then being bleeped by presumably Team Danganronpa. The fact you don't know who bleeped it, why it was bleeped, or anything along these lines only creates more questions with no answers. Finally, he answers the question set in the beginning on how he won the perk, naming it and explaining his talent. Finally, he says he wanted this killing game and that he has to win, no matter what. If you cared enough, you'd also probably question what his talent was before becoming the ultimate survivor, as he says he got that from winning. This shows the power the runners have over the world, being able to change the people's talents on command. This concludes his behaviour from the early game, but gives an equal or even larger amount of questions to gnaw on. Everything is answered in Case 6 as I said, and it serves to really anticipate the ending in the game. In fact, what else does this mystery serve? Time to look into it. When discussing the how of Rantaro and his mysterious writing, it's important to discuss the why. It's like playing Minecraft as you're older. You go from building things for no reason as a kid to needing some slightly practical use to motivate you to do so as you get older. And it's the same for Rantaro. You can't make an intricate, interesting, and totally in trouble character for no reason to begin with. It's important for these things to have purpose, otherwise you're just wasting your time with a character almost nobody will care about. Clearly, this happened. So, why did the things I've introduced in the last section serve the game flawlessly? Well, let's get into it. I'm going right off the bat with the colours this time, as the cool colours throughout the game serve and benefit from everything I brought up earlier in the video. They do both through my first point, that being cool colours and their mysterious backgrounds that are always tied to them. Being cool, calm and collected is a great environment for plenty of thinking, and to be able to think, or to be encouraged to think, mystery and some relaxing colours easily helps this happen. Danganronpa is all about questioning, as it is a psychological horror anyway. When Rantaro's ultimate lab appears, it's everything but cool coloured, which presents a more upfront, suffocating mystery that feels in your face rather than a slow burn. It's an immediate impact when you enter that room, rather than being left with the questions and suspicion of Rantaro's living self. This colour gives a nostalgic callback to the original Danganronpa games, which is so sweet. The point is, all of this presents nostalgia, amplifies the mystery of this novel, and adds a lot of depth. It only becomes more present considering how it serves the overarching story as well, whether it's his tour Hoge's showing his involvement in 2 killing games, paired with his role allowing Shuichi to figure out that Samugi punishes those who resist with going to the next killing game, to even starting the killing game and helping play into the themes of the ending's fiction versus reality. This all makes Rantaro integral to the overall game, and even gives more to wait for when playing through it. It's a pretty well-known thing that the games drag a decent amount, and a mystery like Rantaro really adds a slight suspense that comes back to bite you in parts of the game such as chapters 5 and 6. He has another integral role I've touched on as it relates to the mystery a lot less, but it's his involvement with Kaede in chapter 1. You might not realise it at first, but Rantaro helps lessen the load of responsibility on her for a decent bit of the while. It's clear he has a sense of responsibility, and for good reason considering his backstory. His free time events are very good for helping show the bond between both her and other students, but also her and Shuichi, showing things such as the questioning on who exactly feels normal in the school. He also of course dies to her hand and is the first murder. He allows her to show the bad side of people including protagonists, as unfortunate for Rantaro as it is. He foreshadows the plot and brings more depth into the game than the other first victims typically do in my opinion. His death of course, as I said, serves as an amplifier for mystery, but also as an amplifier for the atmosphere as a whole, much like those other victims always do. This part was shorter, but just like Mystery vs. Payoff, the payoff is always short and sweet. I'm moving to the focusing on the negatives of Rantaro's character now. Everything has been too positive, and for once, I'm not stuck to the one binary. It's time to talk about how some of his stuff doesn't exactly work, to keep this in depth, educational, and more importantly, worth yours, but also my time. So, what's not so good about Rantaro and the plot threads related to him? I think that's good to talk about considering I've only said great things about the constant mysteries associated with him. Well, firstly, his death. His death has a lot of positives of course that I've brought up, but when thinking about it, it's also really disappointing. Even after knowing the whole story, I have a solution to this that I'll bring up at the end of this section though, since it segues perfectly into chapter 4. Just know that this supposed fix is not rewriting what's already been established in V3. Another problem is his utilization in especially chapter 1, as it feels like he's hardly established as his own character, much like Samugi, who was the other survivor of this killing game. It being intentional or even benefiting the plot doesn't entirely justify it, and even though he's got screen time and extra modes, I'd of course always love to see some more Rantaro in chapter 1, though not every character can get their fair share of love, huh? It's just the way his death happens. It's a little forced, and I guess even that is intentional. I mean, he didn't naturally die, that's for sure. Samugi interrupted Kaede's murder plot, and therefore it is forced and unnatural. Though I did say it being intentional doesn't justify it as bad, as a bad case is a bad case. Dude just dies to a ball and nobody even cares about it, much like how nobody cares about Kibo's death. I also think Kaede dying marked the start of what almost feels like a totally different game, as if Chapter 1 and the prologue weren't even Danganronpa V3. This, I feel, discredits Rantaro even more, as we all know Kaede is the reason for this, her being the protagonist and all. But of course, all these complaints are just about him being irrelevant, and well, in reality, that helps a big part of what makes him mysterious now, doesn't it? Finally, I'll mention how to fix it like I said. While Rantaro died immediately in V3, he survived the 50-second killing game. So explain that one a little more, make a game about it, or something at all. Danganronpa Distrust does this as I said, but it just isn't out yet. Just having more killing game Rantaro would be nice, especially seeing how he made it to his death before V3. And speaking of that, it's time to analyse those missing pieces of Danganronpa as a conclusive little exercise for today's video. Danganronpa V3 hints at what has happened 4 times throughout the game. Well, there's also things like the confirmed sacrifice system, or the fact Samugi has been the mastermind before, but you know the drill. The 4 examples I'll be bringing up here are Rantaro, of course, as well as Shuichi's, Kaede's, and Kaito's audition tapes. And I'll also be taking a look at the boatload of titles shown in the Class Trial V3 trailer. All of these should paint a fraction of the picture of what has happened throughout the games, alongside what Rantaro has went through to an extent. Firstly, we can talk about Rantaro, and how I think he's the protagonist of the 50-second killing game. Look at his design for a moment. I briefly said it, but he has 2 iconic protagonist ahoges. There's also 2 killing games he's participated in, and while some characters have these as well, this seems quite contextualized in contrast. Like, yeah, it makes total sense considering like half of this character is his interesting origins, so yeah. I think there's a reason for this. That's the first point. It's easy to assume Rantaro was the protagonist of the 50-second killing game, especially because he survived. Maybe he had his own Kaede situation, but there's no evidence proving that. Well, he also seems extremely non-mistake, simply saying that everybody will go and kill each other, and that's how it is. I think this adds to the evidence they weren't fictional. Wait, too fast. He also seems extremely numb in his tape, simply stating that everybody will go in, kill each other, and that's how it is. I think this adds to the evidence that they learnt they were fictional, since his hopes are utterly crushed, and as Shuichi figures out, they committed to the Case 6 sacrifice. This sacrifice would have only happened if they figured this out, right? There's no evidence going against that. He says other things as well, and his whole attitude is some sense of defeat, though it slowly fades over time. In the prologue once again, I guess recording me saying, in the prologue by the way, it's worth mentioning that Rantaro has his full memories because after saying that there's 16 students, he also goes off to say he knows what this is. And he says, he asks why there's so many theatrics. He's asking why the killing game is being played off this way. Which also hints that we know these theatrics weren't happening. The Monocubs weren't a part of the last killing game, and there weren't any silly things like Monomi or anything. It was probably just Monokuma. And if there was another character, he would be a serious character. It was not a silly little guy. So we know that for a fact. And we also know that Rantaro's personality is so bad that he immediately assumes this and he's immediately in despair. Like, just the game starts. Anyway, on top of that info, it's clear that he doesn't trust anybody. There's no way to differentiate if this is exclusive to the 53rd killing game perk, or if he was like this prior as well. Regardless, I think something happened to him in the previous one that caused his attitude. Though, even with this, he has the spirit of a protagonist, hoping he ends the killing game and stating he expects them multiple times throughout this tape. He seems like a genuinely nice guy that was wronged by his classmates, and he must not have had much luck with the amount of survivors in his killing game considering only him and Samugi converted over. He chose to sacrifice himself after all. He would be nice. When comparing it to V3, both Maki and Himiko would have made it. Also, a little... Rantaro says something about the 2-person rule of how to end the game, but it's bleeped. What exactly could this be? If only him and the mastermind made it over to the other game, I reckon only him, her, and 2 other survivors survived. So, 4 students, which is more than the typical 2. Because of this, he might have just been informing his future self that you can end it with more than 2, though with him and Samugi gone it would have just been 2. So, maybe there were 5 people. But that's the same as V3, so I really don't know. It's all very speculatory, but I think with enough blind faith, you could make a lot of things seem possible. It is possible that Samugi hadn't revealed herself to be the mastermind in the previous killing game. as if she did, I'm sure Rantaro would have remembered that as well. And yeah, maybe because Samugi wasn't revealed, there was only 4 people, and Samugi was one of the survivors instead of the mastermind. Besides this, the audition tapes bring up a few interesting facts about the unseen killing games. Unlike this Rantaro tape, these confirm some stuff, such as the fact there were far more ultimate detectives than just Kyoko and Shuichi. Shuichi himself says in his audition tape there might have been a few others, but he'll make it unique, saying he'll make the most gruesome murders possible and that everybody will love it. He also confirms all the other Ultimate Detectives never became Blackened, so Samugi truly is a formulaic writer in the end, huh? Though besides that, Kaede and Kaito don't confirm anything worth noting as they only have 1 to 2 lines of dialogue in this segment of this. Danganronpa games 4 to 10 are all revealed through logos, and they don't have much besides goofy references and gags. It keeps ending and returning for various reasons, such as anniversaries, which is cool. It shows how sour the series can get, even as the logos become kinda stupid. Not gonna lie. I mean, they are unoriginal, they're all based off of other media. It's finally worth noting that demon hunting from Danganronpa Another Episode is considered its own killing game. Odd, but it's in the wiki, which, as we know from school, Wikipedia is a great source for reliable information, right guys? Anyway, that is all. This will most likely be on the shorter side of my content, though I hope I got my point across without too many discrepancies in my statements and arguments. That was a video. I don't know how good it'll come out, but hey, Rantaro was interesting, and I wanted to both cover him, the themes of mystery, and the missing bunch of killing games. Was this in depth enough? I don't know, but I doubt I could go much further to be honest. Time for the gag I put in every video of mine, guys. This time it says, "Be yourself or you'll wind up like the ultimate avocado, you little," and it's red, so that must mean it's pretty aggressive. While I was recording this one, it's funny because the antagonist video continued blowing up, and then the Eden's Garden video stacked on top of that, which I think it's like 5 days old by now, 4 days old, so this video is going to be out pretty quick, man. Like, it's shorter, easy to edit, and I've started working on it really early. Yeah. On top of that, there hasn't really been much going on. A lot of subscribers, guys. I'm growing really fast. Thank you so much. We're on, at this rate, we'll be at 400 pretty soon. As I got 60 subscribers in only 3 days. I'm slowed down right now, but I don't really mind. Like, I'm really happy with how it's been going. Protagonist videos planned after this, and then I'll probably hit an Eden's Garden video. Keep in mind, after a while, after a few more Danganronpa Eden's Garden videos, I'm probably going to head to a different fandom. Not like permanently, but I'm going to be multitasking with my content. I might join the JoJo fandom and make some content in that, see how it goes, or I might go to Genshin Impact. But really, who knows? It depends how stuff goes. Like, I'm running out of ideas for Danganronpa, like fresh stuff that hasn't been covered particularly, or at least not in depth. But you know, I might get ideas. This Rantaro video was kind of a last minute idea after all. Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Like and subscribe, and keep in mind there's plenty of other content now to go watch if this is your first video of mine. Like, I've been growing a massive catalogue of content, so if you really did enjoy this video, everything else is really similar. Chapter headings, analysis, sometimes I've got rankings going on, there's plenty of stuff if you are desperate for more Danganronpa content, because the fandom can get pretty scarce sometimes, I fully understand. That's why I'm making content after all. Anyway, yeah, bye. Love you guys.